Hoaxer, The Kid from Amity, The Poltergeist of Coventry, by Joe Papalardo, 2026.
I'd just gotten back from a blind date when Maddie Hinkle called in a panic. My brother Jeffrey set up the date, of course. It went pleasantly enough. An expensive dinner with a divorce attorney from Providence. She was intelligent, witty, and dressed sharply. There were zero sparks between us. It doesn't help when you have to lie about the most interesting part of your life. Although that never seemed to stop James Bond. A license to kill gave him a primal sexual ferocity. A lifetime of hoaxing shrouds me with geeky awkwardness and simmering paranoia. Being a philanthropic hoaxer doesn't exactly project qualities most women are looking for. It involves lying, cheating, and the risk of public humiliation, and worst of all, for no financial gain. Even mafia wives get nice coats out of their deals. So it was back to the apartment alone and a weekly survey of YouTube top 10 lists of supernatural videos. They underwhelmed me. The UFO videos shot from military aircraft, new releases from the Pentagon's latest chumming of the conspiracy theory waters. Most were drones or balloons that appeared to be moving fast, courtesy of parallax illusion. The ghost videos were AI jump scares. Another video showed an AI-enhanced version of a flying stormtrooper drone that I'd already seen debunked elsewhere. You'd figure I'd be a big fan of AI. I'm not. It's opened the floodgates for bad hoaxers, inundating the web with fakery. But the essential weakness, as has been pointed out to me by my on-payroll hacker, Kendra Squared, is that the computer has to create new pixels by extrapolating from the existing pixels, leaving a detectable trace. Kendra can erase these statistical correlations between different pixels, frame by frame, removing the telltales left behind by such manipulation. When creating faces, she uses automated lip-reading software that spots and fixes mismatches. It's beyond Hollywood standards, and beyond what generative AI is able to do so far. Details. Sell the image to experts. In a real photo, lines that run parallel in reality, like streams of light, floor tiles, mirror reflections, should meet at a single vanishing point. In her videos, they always do. She creates 3D reconstructions of the images to make sure the physical cues look exactly as they should. I had just lit a cigar when one of the cell phones in the cabinet rang. I have many kept on chargers there, each under a different name. Some of the phones are part of dummy digital profiles. Others are used for client communications, while my personal phone uses the same expensive encryption that business executives take to meetings in China. I saw the name on the screen, Maddie Hinkle. She was our most recent client, and to be honest, she was the only one. Things can get slow for a philanthropic hoaxer. It's not like Jeffrey and I can advertise our services. Maddie's name came to us from our attorney, an old islander who knew just the bare bones of our extracurricular activities. She was the focus of courthouse scuttlebutt, and we actually approached her with an offer to help. She lived in Coventry, population 30,000 in Kent County, Rhode Island. Nathaniel Greene, second in command to George Washington, was the last famous resident from there. It's a nice place to live with a moneyed feel and an overall crime rate noticeably lower than the national average. Maddie Hinkle lived in Boston, but her father lived in Coventry. He had been estranged from him for more than 25 years. He was a mid-level shipbuilding executive, but also an unrepentant drunk. When he died in Florida last year, an attorney called to inform her that she'd inherited some property he owned in Rhode Island. The two-story house at 4267 Roxbury Street had some drawbacks. One was a large unpaid tax liability. Another was a group of squatters who infested the place. Former friends of her father's who were talking about hitting the 10-year residence mark. This meant they could take ownership of the home by Rhode Island law. The formal eviction process was especially thorny, time-consuming, and expensive. All Maddie wanted to do was sell the house and stop the financial bleeding. She didn't ask for this or make any mistakes to bring it on. She couldn't afford to make the home's many needed upgrades, and she was facing an overall loss. It shouldn't be hard to sell a house in Coventry, given its good reputation. But recently, sales volume have dropped to 15-year lows as elevated interest rates keep buyers on the sidelines. Her realtor told her she must offer more room for inspections, negotiations, and price cuts in order to move the house quickly. The median home value in town is $250,000. Maddie was looking at two-thirds, that due to the squatters' depredations and soft market. There is one thing that can raise the value of an ill-used house for a niche buyer: being a confirmed haunt. I know that a death house, for a few years anyway, generally sells for less. But the kink in these equations is a confirmed ghost. Some would never move into a place with such a reputation. But there are plenty who would, and it only takes two to sustain or even increase a house's worth. People are weird, and they will invest in getting proof of an afterlife. It's something everyone has in common. No one wants to die and stay that way. It was purely a remote campaign. I had Maddie shoot her interiors and turned Kendra loose on the video, inserting ghosts. The trick is to have one in clear view and a couple of less distinct apparitions that viewers can find on their own. This adds to the overall veracity of the video and its owner, which was important since Maddie herself would be sending them to the list curators. The lists never disclose addresses, but simple geolocation makes it easy to narrow it down in a place like Coventry. And of course, we let her realtor know, with Jeffrey emailing posing as a prospective buyer who thought he recognized the place. Word spread quickly after that, and it was working. The realtor told Maddie that there was a spike in queries and even a couple of tours scheduled. The price cut she once advocated was on hold. It was an easy win, and I was happy to facilitate, but it was Kendra Squared who did the bulk of the work. I was thinking it was a done deal when Maddie called with bad news. Her name was Lorna Hughes, recent retiree and president of the Homeowners Association. Why she made this her business, I'm not entirely sure. I think she had an ingrained and self-appointed position as the defender of the neighborhood reputation from all threats, foreign or domestic. We poked this bear and didn't know it. Part of Kendra's genius is tampering with records to create a phony backstory. In a haunted house, and this entails hacking commercial newspaper archive databases and altering text. Violent deaths create ghosts, so we needed to manufacture one. Only, Kendra found one already in the records. Her name was Tina Lang, an aspiring artist who killed herself in the kitchen of the home in 1968. Her husband was asleep upstairs. Lang lost her daughter in a drowning accident the year before. It was all perfect, and Kendra leaned into the lore when she crafted the videos. Photoshopping a woman in white, lurking in the kitchen doorway, handprints appearing on a window pane over the sink, and a kitchen chair lifted into the air and tossed to the tiled floor. "Is the man's soul still in the house?" the narrator asked, still looking for his little girl. This triggered Lorna Hughes, who apparently lived there her whole life, and even went to school with the dead girl. She was accusing Maddie Hinkle of inventing stories, first flaming her on the neighborhood apps, and then reaching out to local media. She even enlisted a local attorney named Thomas Harvey to act as an official debunker and spokesperson. The realtor told Maddie the offers were teetering and one tour had been postponed. We had to do something. I told her to come to Providence early evening tomorrow when we could meet. Then I hung up and dialed my props guy, Kevin Pike. Then I sent an inverted clown emoji to Kendra, next to a mug, telling her trouble was brewing and we needed to meet at the Lovecraft coffee shop. This simple skirmish was turning into a full-blown battle. I spent the day with my brain trust and met Maddie at Lou's place, which I immediately regretted when I saw her walk in. She was in her early 50s, dressed in a plain skirt and sweater. She was not bad-looking, but the word prim leapt to mind. In Lou's, where females tend to avoid for hygienic reasons, she looked like a librarian from a porn movie. We sat in a back booth. I told her that what was needed was a live event held by a neutral party. Kendra had found a local ghost hunting group, Pawtucket Paranormal, that posted live hunts and debunks in the past. 2 are university students, and the other, who funds the operation, is a local doctor. They had already posted a video about her house, and would be easy to reel in for a live stream investigation. Also invited would be Lorna Hughes and her second, Thomas Harvey. They'd have their skeptical say, and then be rendered speechless as the poltergeist manifested around them. Maddie didn't seem convinced until I reached out and made the ashtray slide across the table and into my hand. After that, we started talking about which evening, the weeks after next, would be best for the showdown. There's only one way to make things levitate and fly across the room on command before a live skeptical audience, and that's magnets. Not just any magnets, but so-called programmable magnets. In 2008, a mad scientist named Larry Fullerton started cooking magnets in his laboratory at Cedar Ridge in North Alabama. He found that magnetic patterns could be hot-etched into magnets. So instead of two poles, a magnet could have any number of polarities. For example, the magnet patterns on a disk could be formed like the teeth of a gear, making something that can turn with no friction. Or, more suited to our purposes, programmable magnets can attract or repel each other only at specific orientations, and they interact only with other magnetic structures that have been coded to respond. If you combine these magnets with coatings of diamagnetic materials like pyrolytic graphite on everyday items, you can achieve all manner of special effects. No one has heard of these things, mostly because the national security apparatus adopted the technology and offered enough black budget contracts to keep Fullerton's company busy for decades. Luckily, they vend to small batch customers who are willing to overpay. I gave her the list of what we'd need: dark coffee mugs, a utensil rack, and cutlery with wide handles. One plate of an expendable set. A woman in an Amazon delivery van would be by to pick them up. We were going to booby-trap the place with invisible tripwires.
Welcome to this special live stream of Pawtucket Paranormal, the most trusted ghost hunting group in the Mid-Atlantic. I'm Dr. Nick Gillespie, here with Louis Uribe and Curtis Jansen, who are busy placing cameras and RIM-pod EMF detectors throughout the house. We're happy to be here with you all tonight for a special ghost hunt, a visit to the infamous Lang House, here in the town of Coventry, Rhode Island. First, the backstory. In 1968, a despondent woman grieving the loss of her child took her life in the kitchen of this nondescript two-story home. Such an emotionally painful death amplifies the chances of a spirit remaining on this plane of existence, although the implications of this sadden me deeply. Years later, Maddie Hinkle inherited the house and set about cleaning it up for resale. That's when she noticed the strange noises, the moving furniture, the broken glasses and dishes, all typical poltergeist activity. And she's filmed some of the most compelling ghost videos this skeptical believer has seen in a long time. Many online agree, with many viewers pleading that she bring in an exorcist or abandon the home entirely. Maddie Hinkle is here tonight, leading the small group on a tour of the house. Aside from our group of 3, Hinkle has invited her most vocal critics, neighbor Lorna Hughes and her attorney Thomas Harvey, to experience a night with her. They agreed that we could document the evening, provided we stay out of the way. So we'll be live streaming what we can from the sidelines tonight, but you can expect a new video next week that goes through any and all the evidence we collect from tonight. Before the live stream started, we had a tour, which proceeded without incident, even though we paused in silence inside each room, giving spirits a chance to make contact. So far, none have. Hughes looks smug, and Harvey has already promised us an on-camera interview when the night's over. Now they've convened in the kitchen, which tonight is also a makeshift commissary. It's also the house's most active room, and logically where this group will be spending much of their time. Sorry, that was weird. And it wasn't just me who jumped. A mug has crashed to the floor, just as Louis was refilling it. He's talking to Harvey about it. He says he didn't touch it and is calling for a replay from a recorder. The pair have walked off, but I'll stay here to pick through the remains. It looks just like the mug that I've been using. I trust Louis didn't touch it. And there are no wires or squibs or anything. But maybe this was just gravity. I'm sure he and Harvey will get to the bottom of this. It's happened again. This time Hughes herself has seemingly lost her mug as she tried to refill it. To my eye, it slid off the edge on its own. Mrs. Hughes, what happened? Did that move on its own? She's walking away, putting the coffee urn down with those slightly shaking hands. I know our cameras inside here caught that one. I'll be very interested to see how that mug moved. as if someone or something is messing around with her. Very, very weird. Now I can tell from Lewis's face that the video has proved him right. The mug moved on its own. Okay, we may have some activity percolating here in the kitchen. Nick is doing an EVP session, which is making Harvey roll his eyes. We wouldn't expect him to understand, but the responses only become clear during playback, which we'll analyze for our later video. Maddie Hinkle has another, more pleasant surprise. It's a homemade bundt cake, a peace offering to the two who've disparaged her online, and a gesture of appreciation to us. What a sweet lady. She's asked for someone to fetch the plates. Holy shit. Sorry, all. But you all saw that. Those plates didn't fall out, they soared. Something yanked one from the bottom of the stack, knocking the bunch of them out of the cupboard. And we got it all on video. We got that for sure. And for what it's worth, Maddie Hinkle screamed as loudly as the rest of us. Hardy is picking through the cupboard now the remains of the plates, looking for springs or strings or anything. There's nothing. There's nothing. This house seems very active now. Hughes looks angry, and she and Hinkle are seated at the table, and it doesn't look pleasant. Did you see that? Did you feel it? The table jumped under my hand, maybe a quarter of a foot of force, straight up, lifting the table and rattling the plates. We all saw it, we all felt it, and there goes Hughes. She's had enough and is now dashing from the home with her purse dangling from her elbow, face looking very childlike. Hardy is crawling under the table, and I'll follow. Nothing down here. I'm seeing an appreciating chat for looking at the seismographs and reporting in from nearby neighborhoods. This appears to be a very localized event. In other words, the table jumped on its own. Hughes and now Thomas Harvey may have given up on the evening, but the Pawtucket Paranormal team will be here all night, documenting this most amazing evening. I heard Lewis and Nick talking. We captured a floating mug, defying gravity, flung by forces unseen. I think we have the real thing here. If Maddie Hinkle is amenable, we're not going anywhere.
It played out well, what can I say? We'd embedded correlated magnets in the cupboard door and applied rings of pyrolytic graphite to the edges of plates. Other programmed magnets had been inserted into the coffee urn and the base of a mug. The work we invested in the knife was a waste of time. It was supposed to leap from its rack but never moved. None of the magnetic events were triggered by Maddie, but by visitors using household objects. Her jumpy reactions were not acting. I watched Pawtucket Paranormal's video and was impressed by how closely they looked at the footage. It was gloriously supernatural in slow motion. And later that night, they recorded several dubious EVPs, what they thought was a moaning man and a giggling child. Once ghost hunters are convinced, their minds will contort to produce corroborating information. I spoke to Maddie on the phone in Boston and arranged a quiet time to collect our materials. She'd leave a key in the lockbox and told me the code. She told me that the realtor was delighted by the response to a new listing, which included a mention of the recent ghost hunt in the spirit of transparency, and it had a new, inflated price. She had a question for me. She understood the use of magnets in the kitchen, how invisible connections were made, and broken by unwitting dupes. But how did we make the table jump like that? I told her we couldn't share all of our best secrets, but I lied. It wasn't us. It would have taken a physical stunt or pneumatic lever to make the table leap into the air with such force. The violence was beyond the force of our small magnets. Harvey and the live streamers saw nothing under the table or floor that could have caused it. I'm stumped. At 3:30 a.m., I went to 4267 Roxbury Street by myself. I'd never been here, leaving the setup to Kendra Squared's black bag friends. I didn't want to pay for this cleanup, since there were so few items left behind. She had boxed up the urn and surviving plates, which made it easy. I took a moment in the kitchen, bending down to examine the table's undersurface with my phone's flashlight. I knocked on the floor with a fist, solid wood, not good for transmitting a shock from beneath. I could get the house schematics and look for pipes, but then my mind screeched to a halt. Why did I even care? It was time to go. All it took was one call from an insomniac neighbor to bring the police to the front door. Then I heard the creak from the top floor. It was not just a creak, but a shuffling step followed by a creak, like someone's weight settling on a floorboard. I froze in place, ears straining. More silence. But I felt a prickle of sweat on my forehead. And then I heard it again, from directly above me upstairs. Scrape, thump, scrape. I was out the front door, box in hand. I couldn't be seen here, whoever was up there. I paused to put the key back in its secured container and shut the front door. I hesitated for just another second, peering into the shadows of the empty house from the crack of the door, expecting to see a shadowy figure watching me. I saw nothing, heard nothing. So I shut the door, too forcefully maybe, and took the front steps 2 at a time to my car.
Hoaxer, the kid from Amity, the Poltergeist of Coventry. Joe Papalardo, 2026.